deep dive mythology,
Lore.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Hello and welcome
The Creative Thinker Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Thinker Podcast. My name is Henry Moon and I am joined by...
Michael Vasquez.
That's right. And we're here today bringing you the story of the Mighty Leprechaun from the Emerald Isle. You may be thinking Lucky Charms or the Leprechaun movies, any of the little green dude in a suit, little white dude in a green suit with a red beard. You might be thinking about some silly stories, some fun stories, some horror stories, but today we're going to bring you our best attempt at the real story. You may have heard the Leprechaun story in a lot of places, and there are a lot of different versions and details. What we did to keep it not boring for those of you who do the research on your own is we aggregated some information and we tried to make it into an interesting package for you. So if you're thinking they didn't touch the one story that I know about leprechauns, you're probably right. We didn't. We did read it though, and we left it out for a reason.
Yeah, we sure did. In prep for the podcast, we were talking about, well, you saw this story and I saw this story, and then there's some stories that we didn't hear. There's a lot. There's out
so
there.
Many rabbit holes, man. I ended up so much earlier than 8th century, which is where our story begins. So you may be thinking, once again, red hair, green suit, little white dude from Ireland. But that is not all that leprechauns are. What if I told you that leprechauns represented the greatest treasure of the Emerald Isle, and it is not a pot of gold? Ooh.
Is it the rainbow? No,
it's not the rainbow either. So the origin is in Celtic mythology. Around the 8th century, we get the first story that mentions leprechauns, the adventure of Fergus, son of Letty, which I think are just great names to begin with. Right. The short version of that story is that, I think it's Fergus. I lost my note page.
The adventure of Fergus, I would assume.
I would assume Fergus is captured and by 3 leprechauns who, through a quirk of fate and a little bit of effort, he ends up capturing back. And they trade 3 wishes for their freedom. So they're basically, lamps. You get your free wish. And it was 3 wishes. So it's like another version of that story, basically. That's the first time we hear about leprechauns in the world in written form, though this is from oral history. So
yeah, and it's super interesting to me how like the different variations that there are in just the research of the leprechauns, right? They all have to do with a wish, but they don't necessarily all stay the same with how you get the wish. I heard in one video today, you get a wish from catching the leprechaun because they're like running around. There's one from like locking eyes with it for a certain amount of time
and not looking away.
Yeah, and then it varies between 1 wish to 3 wishes. I never heard 2, but I definitely heard 1 and 3. So it's real interesting. Like you said, like it's fun to like dive into this because the oral history is like, oh well, they said this and they said that. But yeah, that was very, very interesting to see in the research.
Yeah, and I think the story of Fergus is the only one that I saw where he didn't just happen upon a leprechaun. He actually fell asleep on the beach, and then they captured him when he awoke. So that was another sort of quirk that was in this story that wasn't in others, and so that's why we included it. So there, ba-blam. It's a small bearded trickster always in stories, and they included things like shoemaker as and other like metalwork and things because in the research I did, it may be different in what you found, but in the research I did, it was basically to do with the tradesmen that were popular in Ireland at the time, the trade craft. So shoemaker was a big thing that a lot of like more common folk did. So he was depicted as a shoemaker.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things I told you before we started, I was like, oh, there's something cool that I haven't seen. I don't remember where I saw it from. I saw it in one of the videos. I read it somewhere. That yeah, they're shoemakers, and there's always something to do with them being shoemakers. But someone's like, they're making shoes because they're so mischievous, and like one of the rumors or myths is that you have to catch the leprechaun to get the wish, and it's like they're always running, so they're always having to repair their shoes. So there's this mythology of them being shoemakers, but they're just like, no, we need to fix our shoes so we can keep on booking it and not get caught. And I just thought that was awesome. Like that, this I've never heard anything like that. And then we our shoes keep on breaking down. That's why everyone thinks we're shoemakers. We're like, we don't know nothing about y'all shoes. We just know our shoes.
I saw a variation of that story that I forgot about till right now. That they were fixing their shoes because so in one of the stories they caught the eye of this person and brought them back into their village, and it was them
Mhm.
and a lot of she, which is SIDH,
Uh-huh.
who were dancing and playing a tune, and they were just singing, and they kept carousing and carousing and carousing. It felt like it was the length of a night, but she returns home and she realizes it's been 3.5 years.
Oh,
So one of the things that I heard a variation of that was that they spend all their time dancing and carousing, and so they have to do their shoes or remake shoes for all their she
oh,
friends and
yeah.
for them because they party too hard. So it's like that's so funny that it's like I like that version better where it's like I'm running around. Like it
Yeah.
just feels like there's so much more energy in that. Like
Yeah.
they're
Right.
so hell bent on this running away from people and just trying to get out of granting wishes that they have to keep fixing their shoes. I really enjoy
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Or yeah, running away from people who are trying to find their pot of gold or whatever. How much in your research, what was like kind of the gold situation? Because I associate leprechauns with like the pot of gold. You hear it in the like the Lucky Charms commercial. They're like, ah, they're after me, Lucky Charms, and the charms are his gold or whatever. Yeah, how much research or what did you see in your research about the gold with the leprechauns?
So the gold I didn't spend a lot of time on because it is like an advent of the 18th, 19th century,
Mm-hmm.
that it was added on as a once it became popular, and it was more about marketing Ireland as a country, and it was more about sort of appeasing tourists and things like that than it was about that original kernel of story that came about 1,000 years earlier. And I just didn't want to spend a lot of time on how and why the pot of gold was there. Um,
Okay.
so in the stories that I found, it was most often a wish. It was most often
Yeah.
that they were either granting life lessons to people or teaching them something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
such things like don't trust strangers,
Yeah.
or they were granting wishes. So that was like the main thing that I found. um, yeah, I can look up why the pot of gold thing.
Well, I think from the research that I have, and I actually have some of the articles pulled up right now. One of them is like, oh, they can easily outsmart other magic creatures that often use a person's greed against them. And so I think that's interesting. Like, if someone's running after a leprechaun, they hear the story of like, oh, the pot of gold, and it's like how they're tricksters not just in actions, but also in words and in their wit. And so I thought it was interesting that they use people's greed against them, to either get out of granting the wish or giving them the gold or whatever. So I think that might also be like where that kind of gold brings or comes into the leprechaun story.
I think you might be right. When I have a long form version, because that's just how I think. Unfortunately, when I take notes, I write these long, ridiculous essays that I never share. I just sort of pick apart for content.
Yeah.
And today, I was like, I'm going to lean into it. This is something I write down for just about every episode that like I said, I pick down to the pertinent things. But today, I wanted to read this essay that covers what I heard about the Mighty Leprechaun.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things I was going to say is that our story, the one that we picked out, was the story where the leprechaun is a evolution of the god Lugh.
Hmm.
So, just for those myth fans out there, that's where we're starting. So, in the 8th century, as Christianity spreads across Ireland, the Irish people were not only embracing a new faith, but also facing the arrival of Viking raiders. Lugh, once a prominent god in Irish mythology, was fading from the collective consciousness as Christianity took hold, losing followers at an alarming rate. Some scholars believe that the leprechaun is an evolved form of Lugh, transformed from a shift transformed through a shift in cultural beliefs. The Irish believed that when a tradition or deity was no longer actively worshipped, it was relegated to an other world or a parallel reality. Many of these other worlds were linked to natural features such as hillocks and streams, and lived on in that way. As Lu's followers dwindled, his realm shrank, so his other world. And so did he, quite literally, eventually becoming the diminutive figure of the leprechaun, a being with only the power of a fairy. So even his power shrank away.
Hmm.
This is where the story takes on a deeper meaning, in my opinion. Oral storytelling was a highly valued thing in ancient Ireland, often woven with humor and life lessons. The legend of the leprechaun reflects the resilience of the Irish people in the face of invasions, religious upheaval, and societal change. It was a constant. The leprechaun symbolizes Ireland itself. A humble tradesman, much like the everyday Irishman of the time, yet possessing great wealth. Wealth in wisdom, wealth in gold, wealth in wishes, whichever the story is. This mirrors how Vikings, English, kings, and religious leaders perceived Ireland as a land rich in resources, ripe for the taking. To outsiders, the leprechaun's wealth appears to be gold, and he is often captured, enslaved, and coerced into revealing its location. But through his cunning, he always manages to escape without surrendering his treasure, leaving his captors to reflect on their own shortcomings. It's a lesson of humility for anybody who messes with the leprechaun. The true lesson of the tale is that Ireland's greatest asset isn't their material wealth, it is their wit, the wit of the people. So, no matter the threat, the Irish have always relied on their intelligence, resourcefulness to outlast those who seek to conquer them. It is ultimately a story of survival against overwhelming odds and a testament to Irish resilience and exceptionalism. That's why the story has survived 13 years of written history and untold 13 years, 13 centuries of written history and untold years of unwritten history. And it has within it a lighthearted intrigue for children, moral truths for adults, and the hope and determination for an entire people. And that's what I think is so cool about this
Hmm.
story.
Yeah, yeah. I love looking back at just like folklore, fairy tales, and seeing kind of the truth behind why it was something that was like spread out, the life lessons that you can learn from it. As a child, you're like, ooh, I want to learn about this. And then as an adult, you look back and you're like, ooh, that was kind of messed up. But I understand the lesson that it was trying to teach now. um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that
yeah,
they
it's
literally
really
had to
cool.
hide things away and hide away their culture,
Hmm.
and outsmart all the people that were coming to take whatever they had, which
Hmm.
is just about
Hmm.
everybody at the time. So,
Yeah.
and that original religion was relegated and removed forcefully and not, um, and it was really cool to see that is one of the key stories, at least outside of Ireland. I know in Ireland it has mixed reception because it's been turned into the Lucky Charms guy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's some annoyance there at the corporation version of the Leprechaun, but I know that is
Right.
an enduring story of the country, and I think it's so cool because at that huge sort of change in the trajectory of their culture, it came about or it became written. Um,
Hmm.
and it's such a powerful story of, like I said, outwitting the people around you and keeping your secrets safe.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
neat.
Nice. Yeah. Just want to add on a couple little things that I thought were quite interesting in the research. Something that you can take with you if you're listening to bring up in conversation when you say, "Did you know leprechauns?" One of the things that we've said multiple times, they were portrayed as wearing that green jacket. I think the author, oh man, I just had it right here. There is an author, can't remember, but was saying that the original stories talking about the leprechauns in red coats, and there's almost a difference in the fairies of the time, where if you're a solitary fairy, you wear a red coat or red image or red colored clothing, and the green colored clothing's if for fairies in groups. So I thought that was really interesting. And yeah, I didn't know that there was a difference. I just heard both in the research. It was like either red or green, but there's a reason why it's red, I guess, and then kind of just more naturally through time turned into a green coat.
That's
Um,
so wild because, yeah,
mhm.
they live on their own. And now that we've taken it from just an Irish thing and made it into an entire world thing about Irish people, he wears green.
Right? Yep.
What a
Yep.
wild fact.
Yep. And then also solitary creatures. You don't hear about any female leprechauns in the mythology, and that's odd. I don't know.
That
So
is odd. Yeah.
take what I guess they're solitary because they can't reproduce with nobody else there. I don't know. So yeah, another interesting fact. And
No she
then
women are really into leprechauns, I guess.
right.
Sorry, guys. Short kings,
um,
my bad.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, I think those were my two interesting facts about leprechauns. I thought it was a lot of fun to research this and listen to a lot of people talk about the same things. There's obviously a lot more lore you can go into because Henry and I were talking about before the podcast as we were doing our research. It felt like at a certain point you're doing research on the leprechauns and then it's just going into Celtic mythology. So it is very intertwined with it, like even Lugh and kind of what is the Tuatha De Danann is like the species or whatever that Lugh was, and they think Lugh and that species eventually ended up being the leprechauns, and then it's like, oh well, let's do more research on that. So there's just so much information. This is just what we thought was kind of the most interesting, most succinct way to give you maybe something you didn't know about leprechauns.
Yeah, and it always tracks back. The more that's what I love about doing myth and lore is that it goes further and further back into history, and you end up at this um, creation myth of Ireland, almost
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
inevitably, where it's like these small spirits arriving at the Emerald Isle and conquering the land.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's really cool, and this was sort of the most fun entry story that I've had in a long time when we research something where it just immediately breaks apart and suddenly you're researching 30 different things. Um,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Both because it's the historical record of it is sparse before the 1800s, because it is an oral history story. That's why I kept running into it. It said, well, the oral history says something else. And I was finally found an article talking about the oral history, and then it was, I mean, off to the races. So many different versions of the leprechaun story that it'd make your head spin. So
Yeah.
I found out something about ChatGPT when I started researching this, which
Mm-hmm.
was that you can ask it to be a dungeon master for you, and
Yeah.
and as it turns out, that's one of the best ways to learn information quickly.
Huh.
So I told it to be a dungeon master for me for a character, and I came up with a character, and it's like this character meets a leprechaun, and it needs to be based in Irish mythology. And so I played through this ChatGPT campaign, took an hour and a half, and it kept giving me choices and stuff. And we did this whole story, whole character arc, and everything. It was super fun,
That's
and
wild.
it covered a lot of the things that I then researched, because you can't trust AI to give you the real deal, um,
Mm-hmm.
but it gave me a lot of different places to research that were super fun. So I've started doing that with other topics too, where I'm just like I find to because the biggest part of research to me is you hit this point where you don't know what questions to ask right at the beginning.
Yeah, right,
You
right.
type in the keywords and you get all these like news articles, and it's like this is not what I need, and you have to
Hmm.
comb through all these articles to find the keyword. And once you find that, you're off to the races. But there's that awkward moment at the beginning that ChatGPT helps out with, as it turns out. If you just say "Be my dungeon master" and come up with your story, it's a quick way to find some keywords.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for
Entertaining
sure.
enough way to spend an hour that I may have been at work. Shh.
Heck yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's
Stick
the
it to
real
the man by
takeaway.
doing D&D at work.
Yeah, so it was a good time. Um,
Awesome.
cool. So that's the Leprechaun story. We're getting back into lore and mythology as this season kicks off. Don't think we have forgotten, however, our inspirations, because
Hmm.
those have been a crowd favorite ever since we started. I get lots of feedback about that and people sharing their inspirations back, which is super fun. I
Absolutely.
love hearing about what brings you joy. So anytime
Hmm.
you want to share that with me, you know where I'm at. So,
Yeah.
Michael, what's bringing you inspiration this week?
Yeah, yeah. So, I have been getting back into the D&D vibe as well, and been dungeon mastering myself. And one of my players was like, "Hey, you need to watch this anime because I feel like not necessarily like this is how your world is or how I'm like I don't want to say it's like that, but this is like the vibe of my character as being a part of this world in some way." And they showed me the anime, the Saga of Tanya the Evil, and it is wild. Little synopsis that I just wrote, like imagine a cutthroat businessman gets thrown in front of a bus, and as he's in front and falling in front of the bus, time stops and he has a meeting with the deity. And then time moves on and he wakes up as a baby and
Okay, I
goes
didn't see
through,
that coming.
right? Yeah. And then starts to live life into like this World War I, World War II esque Eastern European country, and that's not based off of anything, but the maps sure look like it's based off of something. But the twist is there's magic in the world, and he's a mage, and he is now reincarnated as a little girl, and he becomes or she becomes an officer. Tanya becomes an officer in the military, and she's just trying to live a cush life. There's spoilers as far as like what her direction is, but it was super interesting. It's been really fun to play through like what does magic look like in like a World War I, World War II type scenario, and the faith in the deity that's happening right now is really interesting. And I just really like how that character is written, and they don't shy away from some of the harder topics, which has been fun. I'm really enjoying it. I'm super inspired by it, and yeah, that's been my inspiration. The Saga of Tanya the Evil. It's on Crunchyroll right now.
Did
I actually watched an episode before we got on.
did they give you the reason why they felt the connection between the two?
Between the businessman and
No,
the
between your campaigns or the way you run D and
oh
D
yes, yeah,
and the
yeah, no,
show.
I know, I'm just not gonna say
Oh,
in case someone else is listening.
heard,
But
heard,
yes,
heard.
I know the connection very well. But it is it's a wild connection, and it's like imagine if I was like not the main character, but like around some of these people. That's what my kind of mindset is. I was like, okay, interesting. He's like, you need to keep watching this. Okay, cool. I'll keep watching it. And it's not disappointing. Like it's hitting like my itch of the anime that I like to watch anyways. And yeah, so I'm really excited about the character development and growth. It's just like the main character is actively trying to not do well and trying to live a cush life, and is just saying the right things to be promoted. And if you've been in management, man, and you don't want to be in management, i.e., me, I vibe with that shit so hard.
And they just keep promoting you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
nice.
good. It's good. But
I'm
yeah,
gonna
that's
check
what's been
that out.
inspiring me recently. What has been inspiring you, Henry Son?
Dude, it's been busy. I'm in grad school. I work. I have hobbies. I have a relationship. Something's got to give, right? I got travel
Yeah.
time. I got audiobooks. I got research. That's just for fun. So
Yeah.
whatever. There's a lot of ways I'm fracturing out as
Hmm.
a human being, and I have been since I started grad school. So this last week sort of hit fever pitch and
Hmm.
just sort of said this something's not working and I need to
Hmm.
take some time. So um, I've been listening to EDM for years now,
Yeah.
but I found through playing Cyberpunk 2077, I found the genre of EDM called cyberwave and
Hmm.
dark
Hmm.
synth, both of
Hmm.
those. Um, and there's just playlists that are like 40 hours long,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
awesome. So I turn it on. I don't have to think about what's on, and it's a very very soothing kind of music. And it always feels like it's nighttime when you're listening. I don't have no idea why
Right.
that is, but it
Feels like it's
does.
nighttime and raining outside.
Yeah, somewhere in Miami for some reason. I don't know. Just neat.
Yeah, exactly.
But lots of neon, whatever, and that helps me sort of zen out and calm down. And I've been trying to take moments where I make sure I'm present, make sure my thoughts are serving me, for lack of a better way to put it, that I'm not spending too much time making these loops in my mind that are just anxiety or self-deprecating or any of that. Just trying to make sure that I'm calm and peaceful,
Mm.
and that's been a focus this week, and it's been really lovely with cyberwave and dark synth. Like I said, just playing that and sitting in darkness or whatever it happens to be, just getting myself back to present, reminding myself that every moment is what you're fighting for,
Mm.
because especially not to get too too out there, but especially economically right now, things are tough, and
Mhm.
um, just wondering about how much are we going to eat and when's it coming and all that stuff is like it's stressful. And
Mhm.
just remembering that it's not a rat race, it's not a maze. Like we're actively living, and
Mhm.
even though there's some discomfort and some decision points that need to be made, we're still actively living. And so
Mhm.
reminding myself of that has been really wonderful,
Mhm.
and those two music forms have been helping. So that's what's been inspiring me. Not the typical one this week, sorry about that. Just been super busy, so I haven't had too much art other than reading Altered Carbon, which is a great sci-fi detective novel, but
Mhm.
um, it's pretty. What's the word? Uh, Edgy. I don't know about edgy, but it's like not uplifting at all. It's pretty cynical.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading it. I think you should, but I wouldn't say it was uplifting. But what it's
Mhm.
been uplifting is music and taking 5-10 minutes a day to be grateful. So
Hey, that's what's up. That's what's up, man. Because I tell you what, like, not to get too much about the world and stuff that's going on. It's tough out there, um, and I hope that as y'all listening, we can bring just a little bit of joy to y'all, a little bit of like, that 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes, whatever, of just time to not think about what's going on, educate a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I feel you, dude. Like this has been something for me that has been nice to get back into because it's pushing me to like get into that creative mindset, and that's something over the past couple months I've really been struggling with. So it's nice to look forward to doing these, and it's nice to spend the time researching it and feeling like, oh, we're bringing some creativity and we're bringing art into the world again. And so it's really nice to be doing that, and I hope you guys listening are feeling the same way that we do. So yeah, I mean, I hear you. I hear you, man. I hear you.
yeah, yeah. Thank y'all for listening, and thank you for supporting the show. And I mean that obviously supporting by listening, supporting financially, no matter what you do, means a lot. We appreciate you guys. Share your inspiration with us because we do look forward to that, and we love having conversations. Once we started adding inspirations into the show, I had so many more cool conversations with people. And
Mhm.
I would say the Leprechaun may be a shorter episode and a shorter story, but man, I had a lot of conversations when people asked me what we were setting up for. Is like, oh, what about leprechauns? Like immediately, like lean in.
Right.
It's like what?
Yeah.
So it was a really fun topic. And if you guys want to talk more about leprechauns, hit us up too.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for joining us today. That's the end of our episode. Take care. Bye bye.
Peace.
Thank you for watching the Creative Thinker podcast. We put a lot of love and attention into every show, and with that comes a lot of time and money.
You can help us out through the support links in the description. You can sponsor an episode, you can subscribe to our Patreon, and as always, you can follow, like, subscribe, and share all of our channels.
We are eternally grateful for your support as we continue to bring you more episodes of the Creative Thinker podcast.
Creative thinkers all over the globe. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.